Hello friends, today we will learn bird migration and types of bird migration. The word migration has come from Latin word migrare, which means going from one place to another. Many birds have the inherent quality to move from one place to another to obtain the advantages of the favorable condition. According to scientists, migration can be defined as a periodic passing of animals from one place to another. This movement occurs during the particular period of the year and the birds usually follow the same route. There is a sort of internal biological clock which regulates this phenomenon. Migration of birds like stork, turtle doves and swallows was recorded as many as 3000 years ago. Their breeding and nesting place is called as home, and a feeding and resting place is called as new place. In birds, the migration means a two-way journey from a home to a new place and the back journey from the new place to the home. Types of bird migration can be studied under 9 different heads. First one is the latitudinal migration, second longitudinal migration, third altitudinal or vertical migration, fourth partial, fifth total, sixth vagrant or irregular, seventh seasonal migration, eighth diurnal, ninth nocturnal, and according to some views, one more type of migration is there, that is the daily migration. So let us see one by one. The latitudinal migration usually means the movement of birds from north to south and vice versa. Most birds live in the land masses of the northern temperate and subarctic zones, where they get breeding, nesting and feeding during the summer. They move towards the south during the winter. There are several examples. First one is the Arctic tern, Sterna paradisi. This bird has a circumpolar breeding distribution covering the Arctic and subarctic regions. The species Sterna paradisi is a strongly migratory, enjoying 2 summers each year as it migrates along the convoluted route from its northern breeding ground to the coast of Antarctica for the southern summer and back again about the 6 months later. The Arctic tern nests once every 1 to 3 years depending on its mating cycle. This is the longest migration known in the animal kingdom. This medium-sized bird travels about 90,000 km from pole to pole every year. The average Arctic tern lives about 30 years and travels some 2.4 million kilometers during its lifetime. It is equivalent to a round trip from Earth to the moon more than 3 times. The second example is cuckoo, comes from Mongolia, breeds in India and spends the summer at Southeast Africa. Thus, it covers a distance of about 7,250 kilometers. The third example is rough bird, Calidris pugnax, breeds at Siberia and travels to India and then to Sri Lanka, covering a distance of about 9,650 kilometers. The second type is longitudinal migration. It takes place in east-west direction. They starting their journey towards the Atlantic coast to avoid the continental winter. The best example is Pentagonian plover, who visits the Falkland Island from the Siberian region to avoid the continental winter. The second example is American or Pacific golden plover. Fluvialis fulva is a migratory shorebird that breeds in summer at Alaska and Siberia. During non-breeding season, this medium-sized plover migrates widely across the Pacific Ocean. It flies continuously for 88 hours without any rest. Thus, every year it travels about 4,000 kilometers. European starlings or common starlings Sturnus vulgaris are typically migrate from their East Europe to West Asia, migrate towards the Atlantic coast. In October and November, you can see flock of migrant starlings arrive along the east coast of England. Common starling on migration can fly at the speed of 60 to 80 km per hour and cover up to 1000 to 1500 kilometers. पंछियों की उड़ते समय कुछ विशेष प्रकार की आवाज निकलती है, उसे मरमर कहते हैं. Murmurations constantly change direction, flying up a few hundred meters, then zooming down to almost crash to the ground. They look like swirling blobs, making teardrops, figure eights, columns, and other shapes also. The next example of longitudinal migratory bird is the California gulls. Larus californicus, a resident and breed in Utah, migrate westward to winter in the Pacific coast. Most California gulls breed in interior and migrate to the Pacific coast. The most motivator for migration is cold weather and food scarcity. Every year, these gulls covers a distance of more than 2,500 kilometers. The next is altitudinal migration. This involves both horizontal and vertical components. Birds fly up and down over the mountain and hills. Generally, migration occurs at relatively low altitudes. For example, small passerine birds fly at a height of 60 meters. But some birds have been found to fly at an altitude of 4,000 meters. In India, number of birds migrates from plains towards the slopes of Himalayas, ascending thousands of feet above the sea level during the summer, and return to the plains at the commencement of winter. This movement in birds is called altitudinal migration. It is also called vertical migration, as they migrate to high mountains in the summer and to low or deep valleys in the winter. Occurs in many Indian and foreign mountaineer birds. For example, barnacle goose, Branta leucopsis. In spring, these breeds in mountains at high altitudes at pinnacles or at the spire of mountain. The nest is made on more than 400 feet of the pinnacle for protection from their enemies. Barnacle geese can't feed their young in the nest as their feeding ground is very deep. If these chicks do not feed within 2-3 days, they will starve or die. The problem is the chick is unable to fly for about a month, and hence anyway chicks follow their parents and jump from the spire to reach the feeding ground. By this way, barnacle goose migrate at high altitudes for breeding purpose. The fourth type is partial migration. Sometimes all the members of a group of birds do not take part in migration. Only several members of group take part in migration. The example is blue jays of Canada. Some blue jays stay all year in one place and others migrate. Some individual blue jays will migrate to south for one winter but not migrate in the next year. Birds like common coots and spoonbills are also examples of partial migration. Next type is total migration. When all the members of a species take part in the migration, then it is called as total migration. Examples are Arctic tern, golden plover, sandhill crane, etc. The next type is irregular migration or vagrant migration. When some of the birds disperse to a short distance or long distance for safety and food. It is called vagrant or irregular migration. It may be due to cloudburst or heavy rains, landslides, maybe drought, wildfire, or it may be due to the artificial disaster like deforestation. There are so many examples of vagrant migrations: herons, black stork, glossy ibis, bee eater, and spotted eagle. The seventh type is seasonal migration. Some birds migrate at different seasons of the year for food and breeding, called as seasonal migration. For example, cuckoos, swifts, swallows, they migrate from south to the north during the summer. Hence, these birds are also called as summer visitors. But some are migrating from north to south during winter. They are called as winter visitors. For example, snow bunting, redwing, shorelark, and grey plovers are the examples of winter visitors. The next type of bird migration is diurnal migration. In this type of migration, birds are migrating in the daytime. Many large birds fly in day. Examples are crows, swallows, hawks, cranes, pelicans, geese. These are migrating during daytime for food. These birds are called as diurnal birds and generally migrate in flocks. The ninth type or last type of bird migration is the nocturnal migration. Majority of small sized birds like sparrow, warblers, thrushes, etc. prefer to fly at night under the protection, covered by darkness to escape from their enemies. They feed and rest during day. However, some birds fly by day and night continuously while migrating. That is called as continuous migration. Examples are ducks, golden plover, Arctic tern, etc. According to some views, there is one more type of bird migration, that is daily migration. Some birds make a daily journey from their nest to the feeding ground by the influence of environmental factors such as temperature, light, and humidity also. Examples are crows, herons, and starlings.